My name is Daniel, and if you had met me a year ago, you would have said I was the luckiest man alive. I was married to Emily, the woman I believed was my soulmate. We had been together for 6 years, married for 4, and to everyone else, we were the perfect couple. People envied the way I held her hand in public, how she leaned on my shoulder during family dinners, and the way we laughed at jokes only we understood. But behind closed doors, things were not always as picture perfect as they seemed. I should probably start at the beginning, back when I first met Emily. She was radiant, full of life, and when she smiled at me, I felt like the world stopped spinning for a second. She was everything I thought I ever wanted: kind, intelligent, ambitious, and supportive. I built my world around her. I worked long hours, making sure I could provide the life we both dreamed of. A nice house, vacations twice a year, romantic dinners. I thought I was doing everything right. And for a while, it seemed like she loved me just as deeply. I can still remember one evening about a year into our marriage. We were sitting on the balcony of our apartment, drinking wine, when she looked at me with tears in her eyes and said, "Daniel, I can't imagine my life without you. You're my everything." Those words became the foundation of my faith in her. They played in my mind whenever I doubted myself, whenever life got rough. I believed her completely. But now I know those words were nothing but a mask. It all began to shift slowly, almost too subtly for me to notice at first. Emily started coming home late, claiming she was working extra hours. She said she was handling new projects at her firm, and I wanted to be the supportive husband, so I didn't question her. But then came the excuses. She was too tired to talk after work. She'd spend hours on her phone, scrolling with that secretive smile that used to be reserved only for me. She stopped laughing at my jokes, stopped asking about my day. I brushed it off at first. I told myself, she's stressed. Work is demanding. I need to give her space. But then there were the whispers. Little things that stuck out like cracks in a beautiful painting, like the scent of cologne on her jacket that wasn't mine, or the lipstick smudged in a way that didn't match her careful, meticulous habits, or the way she suddenly started locking her phone, something she never used to do. I wanted to ignore it. I wanted to keep believing in the Emily I married, but my gut wouldn't let me rest. One night, after she fell asleep, I did something I never thought I'd do. I reached for her phone. My hands shook as I typed in the passcode I had memorized months ago. My heart pounded so loud, I thought it might wake her up. And then, there it was. Message after message. Some deleted, but not carefully enough. A man's name, Ryan. Compliments. Flirtations. Plans. Words like, "I miss you," and "last night was unforgettable." I felt my chest cave in. My breath caught in my throat as if someone had shoved a knife through it. My wife, the woman who swore she couldn't live without me, was living another life behind my back. I locked the phone and placed it carefully back on the nightstand. I stared at her while she slept peacefully beside me, as if nothing was wrong, as if she hadn't just destroyed the foundation of everything we had built. Tears burned my eyes, but anger drowned them out. I wanted to wake her up, to scream, to demand answers. But instead, I lay there in silence planning. That was the night everything changed. The next morning, Emily woke up cheerful, humming as she got dressed for work. She kissed me on the cheek, her lips brushing the same skin she had lied to only hours earlier, and she said, "See you tonight, babe." I forced a smile, but inside, something snapped. I decided then I wouldn't confront her yet. No, that would be too easy for her, too predictable. She needed to feel what I was feeling. She needed to understand the depth of betrayal, the weight of deceit, and I knew just how to make that happen. For weeks, I kept my mask on. I played the role of the clueless, loving husband. I made her breakfast. I kissed her goodbye. I sent her texts during the day. Meanwhile, I watched her lies unravel piece by piece. I followed her once, just once, when she said she had a late meeting. My stomach twisted as I parked a block away and watched her enter a restaurant with him. Ryan, the man I had seen in her messages. He was taller than me, flashier, the kind of man who probably whispered sweet lies into her ear and made her feel reckless. They laughed. They touched hands across the table. I gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. I wanted to storm in, to punch him, to drag her out by the arm. But I didn't. Not yet. Because what I was planning required patience. I spent nights awake, lying beside her, listening to the steady rhythm of her breathing, thinking of all the ways I could end this. Divorce? Too simple. Confrontation? Too weak. No, my revenge had to be something she'd never forget. Something that would break her the way she broke me. And so I started laying the groundwork. I began saving screenshots of every message I could find. I quietly gathered proof, emails, receipts, photos. Every piece of evidence I could collect went into a hidden folder. Emily had no idea. She thought she was being clever, thought she was outsmarting me. But what she didn't know was that every step she took deeper into her affair was another step closer to her downfall. The strangest part? She began to act even more affectionate toward me during those weeks, almost as if she felt guilty, or maybe she was trying to keep me blind. She'd cook me dinner, leave sweet notes, even suggest weekend getaways. I wanted to laugh in her face every time she did it. But instead, I smiled. I played along. Because the more she thought she was safe, the harder it would hit when the truth came crashing down. One night, as I was preparing my final move, Emily came home late again. I was waiting in the kitchen, sipping coffee, my mind racing with the plan I was about to set in motion. She looked tired, flustered, but when her eyes met mine, she smiled faintly. "You're still up?" she asked. "Yeah," I replied calmly, studying her. "Just waiting for you." If only she knew what was coming. And that's when I realized I wasn't just going to expose her. I was going to make her beg for forgiveness. I leaned back in my chair, sipping my coffee, already tasting the revenge that was about to change her life forever. But what she said next was something I wasn't prepared for. Emily looked me in the eyes and whispered, "Daniel, there's something I need to tell you." Emily's words hung in the air like a blade poised above my head. "Daniel, there's something I need to tell you." For a moment, I froze. My pulse quickened, my mind racing through possibilities. Was she finally going to confess? Was she about to break down, admit her affair, beg me to understand? I leaned forward, feigning calmness. "Go on," I said softly as if nothing was wrong. She looked down at her hands, fiddling with her wedding ring. "Work has been overwhelming. I feel like I am not myself anymore. I don't want you to think I don't care, but I've been so distracted." I almost laughed. Distracted? That was the word she chose to describe sneaking around behind my back? But I didn't let my emotions show. I had to keep my mask firmly in place. "I understand," I told her, keeping my voice even. "I know things have been tough for you lately, but you can always tell me the truth, whatever it is." Her eyes darted up to meet mine, and for a split second, I thought she was about to break. But then she smiled, a small, practiced smile, and shook her head. "No, it's nothing big. I don't want to let you down." My heart hardened. She was still lying, still hiding. I nodded slowly, pretending to accept her words, but inside, my decision crystallized. If she wasn't going to confess, then I would make sure her lies destroyed her in the most unforgettable way. The very next day, I began moving my plan into motion. First, I contacted a lawyer, quietly, discreetly. I explained the situation, showed him the evidence I had gathered, and asked him to prepare the divorce papers. But I didn't want to file them right away. No, I wanted her to think everything was normal while I pulled the rug from beneath her feet. Second, I made arrangements to transfer part of our savings into an account only I controlled. Emily had gotten comfortable with the lifestyle we shared, the vacations, the fancy dinners, the stability. What she didn't realize was that all of it came from my hard work. And soon, she would learn exactly what it felt like to lose it all. But I wasn't done yet. I wanted her affair exposed in the worst way possible. Not just to me, not just to Ryan, but to everyone she cared about. 2 weeks later, the perfect opportunity presented itself. Emily's birthday was coming up. She wanted to host a small dinner with our closest friends and family. At first, I almost declined. The thought of pretending to celebrate her made my stomach turn. But then it hit me. What better stage for my revelation than a room filled with everyone who thought we had the perfect marriage? I agreed to the party. Emily was thrilled, completely oblivious to what I was planning. She spent days shopping for the right dress, planning the menu, fussing over decorations. She had no idea that the night she thought would celebrate her life would actually shatter it. The days leading up to the party were torture. Every time she smiled at me, every time she kissed me goodnight, every time she called me babe, my rage threatened to boil over. But I held it in. Revenge required patience. And patience was finally paying off. The night of the party arrived. Our friends and family filled the living room, laughing, drinking, toasting to Emily's special day. She glowed in the center of it all, like the perfect wife, the perfect hostess. People complimented her, complimented us. I stood there, smiling, playing the role of the proud husband. Inside, I was counting down the minutes. At one point, Emily wrapped her arm around me and whispered, "Thank you for doing this, Daniel. You always make me feel so loved." Loved. The word burned my ears. But I simply kissed her on the cheek and replied, "Anything for you, darling," because in just a little while, love would be the last thing on her mind. When the cake was brought out and everyone gathered to sing happy birthday, I stepped forward, raising my glass. Before we cut the cake, I said, my voice steady, "I'd like to say a few words about my wife." Emily blushed, smiling at me. The room quieted. I began with sweetness, speaking about how much she meant to me, how deeply I loved her, how grateful I was for the years we had shared. People nodded. Some even dabbed at their eyes. Emily's smile grew wider, her hand reaching for mine. And then, I dropped the bomb. But, I continued, letting the silence hang for a moment. What I didn't know until recently was that my wife has been sharing her love with someone else. The room went silent. I could hear the sharp intake of breath, the whispers beginning. Emily's face froze in shock, her eyes widening. "Meet Ryan," I said, pulling up the projector I had connected earlier. On the screen appeared photo after photo, message after message, screenshots of her texts, pictures I had taken of her with him at the restaurant. The evidence was undeniable. Gasps filled the room. Her friends covered their mouths. Her parents stared in horror. Emily stumbled forward, her face pale. "Daniel, please," she whispered. But I wasn't finished. "This," I said coldly, "is the woman who looked me in the eye and told me I was her everything. This is the woman I gave my life to. And this is the woman who thought she could betray me and get away with it." Tears streamed down her face. She tried to reach for me, but I stepped back. The room buzzed with judgment, disappointment, disgust. Emily's perfect world was crumbling in front of her, piece by piece. I should have felt relief. I should have felt victorious. But instead, a strange emptiness crept in. Watching her break, watching the devastation in her eyes. It didn't feel as satisfying as I thought it would. Still, I forced myself to stay strong. "Enjoy your cake," I said coldly, placing the divorce papers on the table in front of her. "You'll need the sweetness, because everything else in your life is about to turn bitter." And with that, I walked out of the room. The murmurs, the gasps, Emily's sobs, they followed me out into the night. My hands trembled, my chest heaved, but I didn't look back. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I had taken control. But I had no idea that this was only the beginning, because what Emily did next was something I never saw coming. The very next morning, Emily showed up at my office, her eyes red, her hands shaking, and she said, "Daniel, you don't understand. Ryan isn't who you think he is. And if you don't listen to me, everything in your life will fall apart." When Emily stormed into my office the next morning, my first instinct was anger. How dare she show up here after everything I'd exposed last night? She looked wrecked, makeup smudged, hair tangled, her clothes wrinkled as if she hadn't slept. But her eyes weren't filled with shame like I expected. They were filled with fear. "Daniel, please," she whispered, her voice trembling. "We need to talk." I leaned back in my chair, crossing my arms, keeping my expression cold. "Talk? After what you did? I think we've already said enough." Tears welled in her eyes, but she shook her head. "You don't understand. Ryan, he's not who you think he is." I laughed bitterly. "Oh, really? So, what is he then? Your colleague? Your study buddies? Your therapist?" Her lips trembled. "He's dangerous, Daniel." I narrowed my eyes, not sure if she was trying to manipulate me again. "Dangerous? That's the best excuse you've got." She stepped closer, her voice urgent. I didn't. I didn't mean for things to happen with him the way they did. He wasn't just some fling. He's been blackmailing me." The words hit me like a punch to the chest. "Blackmailing?" I repeated slowly. "Yes," she cried. "It started months ago. He was a client at the firm, and she hesitated, biting her lip. We went out for drinks one night after work. I had too much to drink, and I made a mistake. He took pictures of us. He told me if I didn't keep seeing him, he'd ruin me, ruin us." I stared at her, my mind spinning. Was this true, or just another elaborate lie to save herself? "You expect me to believe that?" I snapped. "After all the messages I saw? After all the nights you worked late?" Her voice cracked. "I hated every second of it, Daniel. Don't you see? That's why I was distant, why I couldn't look you in the eye. I was scared. I thought if I told you, you'd hate me. So I stayed quiet and let him control me." My chest tightened, conflicting emotions tearing me apart. Part of me wanted to believe her. Part of me wanted to wrap my arms around her and protect her from everything. But another part of me, the part that still burned with betrayal, refused to let go. "Convenient story," I muttered coldly. "You cheat, and now suddenly it's not your fault? You were the victim." Her face twisted in desperation. "It's the truth. He has files on me, pictures, recordings. And if he exposes them, it won't just be me who suffers. He knows about you, about your work, about our accounts. He threatened to drag you down too." I froze. That last part, that was new. "What do you mean, drag me down?" I asked cautiously. Emily wiped her tears with the back of her hand. "He's been watching us, Daniel. He knows things he shouldn't. He's not just some guy I messed up with. He's dangerous. Please, you have to believe me." I wanted to slam my fist on the desk, to scream, to demand why she hadn't told me sooner. But underneath the rage, there was a gnawing feeling in my gut. What if she was telling the truth? What if this wasn't just about infidelity, but something far bigger, something that could destroy more than just our marriage? I stood slowly, circling the desk until I was right in front of her. I looked her dead in the eyes. "If this is true," I said quietly, "then you've put us both in more danger than I can even imagine. And if it's not true, then you're even more pathetic than I thought." Emily's voice dropped to a whisper. "Come with me. Let me show you." Against my better judgment, I agreed. We left the office and drove in silence, the tension so thick I could barely breathe. My hands gripped the steering wheel, my thoughts bouncing between rage, suspicion, and curiosity. She directed me to a dingy apartment complex on the edge of town. It didn't match Ryan's flashy style at all. As we climbed the stairs, Emily kept glancing around nervously, like she was expecting someone to jump out at any moment. When we reached the door, she pulled a small key from her purse. My brows furrowed. "You have a key?" "He gave it to me," she whispered. "He wanted me available whenever he called." I felt bile rise in my throat. She unlocked the door, and we stepped inside. The apartment was a mess. Empty bottles littered the floor, cigarette smoke clung to the air, and stacks of papers covered the table. But what caught my eye were the walls. Pinned to them were photographs. Dozens of them. Of Emily. Of me. Of our house. Our car. Even pictures of me at work. My blood ran cold. "What the hell?" I muttered, stepping closer. Some of the photos had notes scribbled on them. Dates. Times. Personal details I never shared with anyone. Emily's voice shook. "This is what I meant. He's been watching us, Daniel. He knows everything." On the table sat a laptop, its screen still open. I glanced at it, and my stomach dropped. It wasn't just pictures. It was bank statements, work emails, private messages. He hadn't just been blackmailing Emily. He had been digging into my life too. Suddenly, the door creaked. My heart nearly stopped. Emily gasped, clutching my arm. "He's here." I quickly shut the laptop, scanning the room for anything I could use as a weapon. My pulse thundered in my ears, but the footsteps outside faded, moving past the apartment instead of coming in. Emily collapsed into a chair, trembling. "Do you believe me now?" I ran a hand over my face, trying to steady my breathing. The anger I had felt for weeks was still there, But now it was mixed with something else, fear. I finally looked at her, my voice low. If this is real, if Ryan's been watching us, then he's not just some random guy. He's calculated. Dangerous. Her eyes locked onto mine. That's why I couldn't tell you. He said if I ever breathed a word, he'd destroy you. I sank into the chair opposite her, my mind spinning. Everything I thought I knew had shifted in an instant. My wife's affair wasn't just betrayal. It was the tip of a much darker game. And just as I started to process it, my phone buzzed. A text messages from an unknown number. Enjoying my place, Daniel? You should have stayed out of this. My blood froze. Emily's face turned white. Oh my God. He knows we're here. Before I could react, the sound of footsteps thundered down the hall. This time, heading straight for the door. The footsteps grew louder, heavier, closing in on the door. Emily's grip on my arm tightened until her nails dug into my skin. My chest pounded, every instinct telling me to run, but my pride and fury kept me rooted in place. The doorknob rattled. I grabbed the nearest thing I could find, a broken lamp lying on the floor, and raised it like a weapon. Emily gasped, pressing herself against the wall. The door swung open, and there he was. Ryan. Taller than me, broad-shouldered, with a smug grin plastered across his face. His eyes glimmered with arrogance as if he'd been expecting this moment all along. Well, he drawled, leaning against the doorframe casually. Looks like the husband finally grew a spine. Rage surged through me. You sick bastard, I spat. You've been stalking us. Watching us. Ryan chuckled. Relax, Daniel. I was only making sure Emily kept her promises. He glanced at her, and the way his gaze lingered on her made my stomach twist. And she did. Most of the time, Emily shivered, her voice breaking. Ryan, please. Stop this. Just let us go. He tilted his head, amused. Go? No, sweetheart. You and I aren't finished. Not yet. I stepped forward, fury boiling over. You're finished, Ryan. I've got proof of everything. The photos, the files. You're done. But instead of fear, Ryan's smirk deepened. You think anyone's going to believe you? He sneered. I've got enough dirt to bury both of you. Your accounts, Daniel. Your work. You've got secrets too, don't you? My blood ran cold. How much did he know? You see, Ryan continued, circling the room like a predator. I don't just play games with women. I play games with lives. And Emily was my way in. Emily shook her head, tears streaming down her face. I never told him anything, Daniel. I swear. But Ryan cut her off with a laugh. Oh, you didn't have to. You left a trail a mile wide. And I know how to use it. I tightened my grip on the broken lamp. My vision tunneled, all focus on him. If you think I'm going to let you destroy us, you're dead wrong. Ryan's smirk faltered slightly as I lunged forward. We clashed, the lamp smashing against his arm as he blocked the blow. He grunted, shoving me back into the wall. Emily screamed. We grappled, fists flying, furniture crashing around us. Every punch I threw was fueled by weeks of betrayal, rage, and humiliation. But Ryan was strong, stronger than I expected. At one point, he pinned me against the wall, his breath hot against my face. You think you're the hero here? He hissed. You're nothing. She wanted me because you were too blind to see her slipping away. I roared, slamming my forehead into his nose. He staggered back, cursing, blood pouring down his face. Daniel, stop, Emily cried, but I didn't listen. I was consumed. The fight ended only when Ryan stumbled backward and tripped over a chair, crashing to the floor. He groaned, clutching his face. I stood over him, chest heaving, lamp still in hand. One more swing, and I could end this. But then, the sound of sirens filled the distance. Ryan smirked through the blood. You called the cops? I shook my head, confused. No. Emily's face went pale. He did. Sure enough, Ryan pulled a small device from his pocket, a panic button of some kind. See, Daniel, he coughed, laughing weakly. I'm always one step ahead. When they get here, they'll see a violent husband breaking into my place, attacking me. Who do you think they'll believe? My stomach dropped. He wasn't bluffing. The sirens grew louder, closer. Emily rushed to me, gripping my arm. We have to go. Now. We bolted out the back exit just as the flashing red and blue lights turned the corner. My heart hammered in my chest as we sprinted down the alley, every muscle screaming with adrenaline. We didn't stop running until we reached the car. I fumbled with the keys, my hands shaking, and finally got the engine roaring to life. As I sped away, Emily gasped for air, clutching her chest. "Do you see now? Do you see what kind of man he is?" I didn't answer. My mind was spinning, torn between rage at her betrayal and fear of Ryan's reach. He had us trapped in his web, and I didn't know how to break free. That night, we didn't go home. We checked into a cheap motel on the outskirts of the city. Emily sat on the bed, staring blankly at the wall, while I paced the room like a caged animal. Finally, I stopped and faced her. "If what you're saying is true, then Ryan isn't just blackmailing you. He's building something bigger. Something dangerous." She nodded slowly. "I think he's involved in things we don't even know about. Illegal things. He used me as leverage to get closer to you." My fists clenched. "Then we need to take him down. But we can't do it alone." Emily's eyes widened. "What are you saying?" I hesitated, then made the decision. "We go to the police. Not the local cops. He probably has them in his pocket. We go higher. Federal." Emily shook her head frantically. "No, Daniel. If he finds out," I cut her off. "If we don't, he'll keep coming after us. He'll ruin everything. You said it yourself. He knows too much." She bit her lip, fear clouding her face. "Do you even trust me enough to do this together?" The question hit me like a blade. Did I trust her? The woman who had betrayed me, lied to me, and dragged us into this mess. I stared at her for a long moment, my chest aching. "I don't know if I trust you," I admitted, "but I know I hate him more than I hate you. And that's enough, for now." Emily's shoulders slumped, tears rolling down her cheeks. She whispered, "I'm sorry, Daniel. I never wanted any of this. I just wanted to protect you." I turned away, unable to look at her, because deep down, a part of me still wondered if she was telling the whole truth. The next morning, as we prepared to leave the motel, I checked my phone. Dozens of missed calls, emails, notifications. My boss, my colleagues, my accounts. Something was happening. When I opened my banking app, my blood turned to ice. Every account, every savings, completely drained. Emily gasped when she saw my face. "What happened?" I turned the screen toward her, my voice shaking with fury. "He's not just blackmailing us anymore. He's destroying us." And then, as if to drive the knife even deeper, a new message appeared on my phone. From Ryan. "I warned you, Daniel. This is just the beginning." My hands trembled as I stared at the message on my phone. "I warned you, Daniel. This is just the beginning." Every dollar I'd worked for, gone. My savings, my retirement fund, even the emergency account I thought no one knew about, emptied. Emily covered her mouth, her eyes wide with horror. "Oh my God, Daniel, what do we do now?" I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw the phone across the room. But instead, I forced myself to stay calm. Losing control was exactly what Ryan wanted. I clenched my fists. "We end this. Tonight." Emily's voice cracked. "How?" "He's too powerful. He has everything on us. The money, the pictures, the files. Then we take everything back." I cut in, my voice cold, determined. "We stop running. We stop hiding. We fight." She blinked at me, tears swelling up. "But Daniel, what if we lose?" I met her gaze, and for the first time since this nightmare began, I felt clarity. "Then at least we go down fighting. But I'm done letting him control my life. He already took my wife, my trust, my peace of mind. He won't take anything else." That night, I called in a favor from the only person I trusted outside of Emily, my friend Marcus, an old college buddy who now worked in cybersecurity. We met in the dim corner of a cafe, the hum of espresso machines masking our whispers. I handed him Ryan's laptop, the files I'd copied, and every screenshot I had. Marcus scrolled through the data, his brows furrowing. This guy's not just a blackmailer. He's tied to something bigger: money laundering, identity theft, offshore accounts. If half of this is real, he's looking at serious federal charges. Emily's eyes widened. "So, you can help us?" Marcus leaned back, exhaling. "I can trace some of it, But you'll need hard evidence to nail him. Something that proves it's him and not just circumstantial data. My jaw tightened. Then we'll get it. The plan was risky, reckless, even. But it was the only option left. Ryan had an ego. He loved control, loved knowing he had us cornered. If we gave him a reason to gloat, to meet us face to face, we could record everything. His confession, his threats. Enough to bury him. So, I sent him a message. You win. Meet me tonight. Let's settle this. The reply came almost instantly. Finally. Midnight. The pier. The hours leading up to midnight were torture. Emily paced the motel room, wringing her hands, whispering prayers under her breath. I sat at the table, checking the small recorder Marcus had given me, making sure it was hidden inside my jacket. When the time came, we drove to the pier. The night was cold, the water black and endless beneath the flickering streetlights. Ryan was already there, leaning against his car, his smug grin illuminated by the glow of his cigarette. Well, he drawled. The lovebirds. Back together, huh? Touching. Emily flinched, but I stepped forward. This ends tonight. Ryan smirked. Oh, it ends tonight, all right. But not the way you think. He pulled out his phone, waving it mockingly. I've got backups of everything. One click, and your lives are ruined. You think you can outsmart me? I forced myself to stay calm, every nerve in my body screaming to lunge at him. So what do you want, Ryan? Money? Control? What's the point of all this? His grin widened. Because I can. Because people like you, good men with perfect little lives, need to be reminded how fragile it all is. And your wife, his eyes flicked to Emily, making my blood boil, was the perfect tool. Beautiful, desperate, easy to manipulate. She handed me everything on a silver platter. Emily's face crumpled with shame, tears streaming down her cheeks. You're a monster. He laughed. No, sweetheart. I'm just smarter than you. That was it. The confession I needed. The recorder in my jacket was capturing every word. But then Ryan's tone shifted. Darker. Colder. You really think you're walking away from this? He sneered, pulling a gun from his waistband. Emily gasped, covering her mouth. My heart nearly stopped. Ryan, don't, I said firmly, raising my hands. You don't want to do this. Oh, I do, he hissed, waving the gun between us. See, this is the part where I remind you who's in charge. No recordings. No evidence. Just an unfortunate accident at the pier. For a moment, time slowed. The water lapped against the dock. The wind bit against my face. Emily sobbed softly beside me. And then, out of nowhere, headlights cut through the darkness. A black SUV screeched to a halt, doors flying open. FBI. Drop the weapon. Ryan spun, cursing. But before he could react, agents swarmed him, tackling him to the ground. The gun skidded across the pavement. I staggered back, stunned. Emily clutched my arm, her body trembling. Marcus stepped out of the SUV, flashing a badge I never knew he had. He smirked at me. Told you I could handle it. The next hours were a blur. Agents confiscated Ryan's devices, secured the evidence, and took him into custody. He screamed threats as they dragged him away, promising it wasn't over, but deep down I knew it was. It was finally over. Back at the motel, exhaustion crashed over me like a tidal wave. Emily sat beside me on the bed, her hands trembling as she reached for mine. Daniel, she whispered, her voice broken, I'm so sorry. For everything. For the lies. For letting it go this far. I don't deserve your forgiveness. I stared at her, the weight of the past months pressing down on me. I saw the woman I once loved, the woman who betrayed me, and the woman who, despite it all, had stood beside me in the end. My chest ached with conflicting emotions. Finally, I spoke. You're right. You don't deserve forgiveness. Not yet. Her eyes filled with fresh tears. But, I continued, softer now, you fought with me tonight. You didn't run. And maybe that means something. Emily sobbed, burying her face in her hands. I didn't hold her. Not yet. But for the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe again. The days that followed were a whirlwind of legal proceedings, investigations, and rebuilding. Ryan was charged with multiple crimes, and his empire crumbled overnight. As for Emily and me, we were left to face the wreckage of our marriage. Trust wasn't rebuilt overnight. Forgiveness didn't come easily. But slowly, painfully, we began to talk, really talk, about everything we had lost and everything we still had left. And while I didn't know what the future held for us, I knew one thing for certain. I would never be the same man again, because betrayal had nearly destroyed me. But revenge. Revenge had given me the strength to take my life back. The end.